Warning, the following podcast contains adult language, themes, and situations. Also, the film we're about to talk about is going to be spoiled thoroughly. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy this show.
The greatest directing duo of all time teamed up with the legendary Nicolas Cage at the beginning of their respective careers and created a timeless masterpiece. That's it. That's all I'm going to say about it. So sit back and enjoy as we break down the brilliant 1987 Coen Brothers classic and the film that made me a lifelong Nicolas Cage fan, Raising Arizona.
Okay, let's run.
I'm like a prickly pear. What do you say we cut the chit-chat a-hole?
Porker, how'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
Hey, have you ever been dragged to the sidewalk and beat until you pissed blood?
Welcome to One Cage at a Time, the show where we break down every single Nicolas Cage movie, one film at a time. Here are your hosts, Patrick, Vince, and Nigel.
When an ex-cop and an ex-con find out they can't have kids of their own, they decide to steal a baby of a family who had quintuplets. But as you might expect, things don't exactly go as planned when a hot-on-their-heels bounty hunter straight out of hell does his best to track down the missing kid.
Let's see who's joining Nick on this adventure.
Raising Arizona features amazing performances from the incredible Holly Hunter, the legendary John Goodman, the one and only William Forsythe, a cast of Coen Brothers regulars including Frances McDormand, and Woody Woodpecker himself, Academy Award-winning actor and the best damn baby snatcher in all of Arizona, Nicolas Kim Coppola, better known as Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
It's time to go over some of the finer details.
Raising Arizona was released on March 13th, 1987, though it had like 3 different release dates. It was like March 6th was the premiere, and then I think 13th was the limited release, and then there was like April something was the wide release, but officially listed as March 13th. Had a budget of $5.5 million and made back $29.2, which is one of the only actual profitable Coen Brothers movies.
Really?
Which is a shock. The Coen Brothers are like, you know, greatest frickin' directors of all time, in my opinion. But they've just had, you know, these cult classics lined up. Like Big Lebowski didn't make a ton of money, and you know, you name it, like Oh Brother Where Art Thou. I think No Country for Old Men made a decent amount of money.
I was going to say, I would have thought that movie would have made them a ton of, but I guess you're kind of right. They tend to get more acclaim on the backside, and they're more of those Oscar films that definitely don't smash the box office.
This was listed as directed by Joel Coen, but that's actually, if you go back and track their careers, they both have directed the entire time. They just weren't, because of the rules of Hollywood. I don't know how they put things into the credits. They aren't allowed, or weren't allowed, to list 2 directors back then, but they've since changed that. So now when you watch Coen Brothers movies, it's actually, you know, directed by Ethan and Joel Coen. Joel always got the credit in these early ones, and then Ethan would get like the producer credit. So they would go back and forth, and then they both get writing credits for all those movies. And then when they edit, they always edit together as well, but they create a pseudonym, and they edit under that pseudonym. And they also, like, I think if they shoot it, they also create a character for that too. So
really,
like, they're kind of like these jack of all trades filmmakers where they kind of do everything. But for the most part, they do hire a DP, but when they do shoot things themselves, they credit this person.
That's so
I forget
funny.
the name.
Coen Brothers' editing pseudonym is Roderick Janes.
Roderick Janes, yeah. So Roderick Janes, and then there's...
Even has a birth date of November 29th, 1955 at St. Louis Park, Minnesota.
Roderick James was nominated for an Oscar. I forget which movie for editing, which is so funny to me. But,
It would be awesome if they just had some random person go up there and accept it and they won.
they just send some like blank-headed person with like a mask on.
They're like the Daft Punk of
I was
directors.
just gonna say, people are like, is that Daft Punk? Is that one of the punks?
Is that the Punk brother?
Is that that or fuck?
This was shot by Barry Sonnenfeld, which I guess I haven't really like followed Barry Sonnenfeld's career, but he was a cinematographer to start out with, and he shot the Coen Brothers' first 3 movies, which was Blood Simple, Raising Arizona, and I believe Miller's Crossing. He shot those 3 movies, and then he went off and started directing, and he directed the Addams Family movies, and then he did the Black Men in Black franchise, all 3 of those, and a handful of other things. But he just kind of 1990 on, he stopped being a DP and he started being a director, and he never looked back. So
Wow, that's funny. Yeah, I never knew he was a DP. I've only known him as a director. From those
yeah, it's kind of crazy if you
franchises.
look through their history of DPs. I mean, you know, they've never worked with a bad DP. They've always worked with amazing people.
Yeah,
which,
their films are always shot so beautifully.
Yeah.
They're always done really well.
Recently, I went back and I watched every single Coen Brothers movie because I hadn't seen a lot of them. Like, I hadn't seen Blood Simple, hadn't watched Miller's Crossing. I actually hadn't seen Barton Fink, and I like Barton Fink has since turned into one of my favorites. John Goodman, again, off the fucking charts in that movie.
I haven't seen any of those. I haven't seen a lot of them, I guess.
Coen Brothers are easily my favorite directors. You know, I've had my like different love affairs with different directors, but the Coen Brothers have been the most consistent throughout my entire life, and still like are the ones that like I will drop everything to go watch when a new movie comes out. I used to be that way with, you know, like Spielberg and Wes Anderson, Kevin Smith, all these different, you know, Quentin Tarantino. But as I've gotten older and time has become more sparse, Coen Brothers are still my go-to.
That's funny. I would have figured Paul Schrader would have been your go-to.
I mean, now he is. Anything Paul Schrader does, I'm there for.
It's going to be an experience one way or the other.
Check out his Facebook, fans. Check out his Facebook.
Yes.
It's
Spend some
comedy
time on Paul
gold.
Schrader's Facebook.
It's awesome.
Paul Schrader is like just old enough to maybe miss out on the cancellation of his career. We'll see.
I think he canceled himself. So.
Yeah, he's kind of canceling himself at this point. Rotten Tomatoes score 91%. I think this is our 3rd movie this season that had a 90 or above. So Mandy, Raising Arizona, and Pig. Much deserved on that 91%, in my opinion. 7.7 out of 10 on 58 reviews. Audience score is 85%, so slightly less than the critics, which makes sense. This is more of a... I feel like the Coen Brothers in general are more of a critical darling, and not so much of like an audience crowd pleaser. And then the Metacritic score is 69%, which I was confused about.
Yeah, Metacritic's always lower, and I'm not quite sure why. I think they have a different criteria for how they rank positive reviews and how they do overall aggregate scoring. So just know
Do
that
they work
going
on an
into it.
aggregate too, or is it just like...
I don't know. To be honest, like I know that Rotten Tomatoes is an aggregate of like any review over a 6 out of 10 is a positive, and it goes toward the positive percentage. I don't know how Metacritic ranks their reviews. So that's how you end up with like Rotten Tomatoes, like the average score was 7.7 out of 10, but it's still 91% positive because that's most reviewers gave it at least a 6.
How about a Coppola quick facts?
There are a ton of quick facts about this movie. It's you know, it's kind of a cult classic, and then the Coen Brothers, anything that happens with the Coen Brothers, this was kind of the movie that really catapulted Nick Cage to stardom. So this is, you know, I feel like this is a beloved, time-honored film, so of course there would be a ton of quick facts about it. The Coen Brothers wanted this film to be the polar opposite of their debut, which was Blood Simple, and as such, they made it more positive and upbeat with sympathetic characters, whereas like everybody in Blood Simple is a garbage human, and terrible, and it's more akin to like No Country for Old Men, where it's kind of a crime story that it's got kind of a noir feel to it, which some directors can do well, and others. Christopher Coppola, Christopher Coppola it. After the success of Blood Simple, the Coen brothers wanted to do Hudsucker Proxy as their next film. So I guess they had written it already, but Hudsucker Proxy had an estimated budget of $40 million. So they were a little less likely to get that kind of money. And so they decided to just buckle down, and they had like a window where they were supposed to put out a film. So they wrote this, and this took 3.5 months for them to write and put together. Film was shot over 10 weeks, wow, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's quick.
The Coens came to set with a complete script and storyboard with a budget of over $5 million. Joel noted that to obtain maximum for that money, the movie had to be meticulously prepared. So everything in that was like, they had the whole film storyboarded out to the T, and it led to some battles between Nicolas Cage and the Coen brothers.
Really? Even that early on in his career?
Yeah, I heard about this.
Yep. I mean, he was coming off of The Boy in Blue, that hit.
Cult classic.
I think he did do Moonstruck about this time. So yeah, maybe he was feeling like he had a little bit of heat, and but he's just one of those. He's just one of those guys, like if he doesn't believe that it's exactly the way that it should be, then he's not gonna be fully engaged in the film.
Yeah, I guess they had some back and forth, huh? A little bit of some arguments with him.
Yeah, I always wondered why Cage was never in another Coen Brothers movie. This is why. The relationship between Nicolas Cage and the Coen brothers was respectful but turbulent. When he arrived on set and at various points during production, Cage offered suggestions to the Coen brothers, which they largely ignored. Cage said that Joel and Ethan have a very strong vision, and I've learned how difficult it is to accept another artist's vision. They have an autocratic nature. Joel replied that he understood why Cage would make that statement, saying that it was a lot of fun working with Nick, but that some of his improvs clashed with their vision and had to be edited. However, the Coens clarified that they would much prefer working with an actor who, like Cage, possessed a fertile imagination over one whose performance needed to be kickstarted. So it seems to me that it was almost the exact same thing that happened on Vampire's Kiss, but the Coen brothers reined him in. The guy who directed Vampire's Kiss wasn't able to rein him in and just kind of let him do his thing. And that guy had never directed before. The Coens only had done one film, so I guess it's a testament to the Coen brothers that so early in their career, and they were pretty young at that point. I think they were probably in their 30s at that point, because they're like in their mid 60s now.
Makes sense.
He cannot be an easy guy to rein in.
No. Yeah, because even like on Moonstruck, it seemed like he was very adamant about crafting his own performance. Yeah, whether the director 100%. Wanted it that way or not.
He definitely did his own thing.
Yeah, coming off of that, I could definitely see these guys were like, what the fuck? Just ignore him and he'll just have to do what we say. And we'll just cut the shit that he does that doesn't work.
If you really watch his performance, like I've never seen Nick Cage give quite this same performance in anything else. And I really feel like that was the Coen brothers, They really were able to mold him into what they wanted him to be.
Yeah.
The whole time they were like, don't do that damn Humphrey Bogart impression.
What are you talking about? See? Don't love it, see? And I'm running from the cops.
Let's go get Nathan Jr. See?
Yeah. Yeah, I think they got a great performance out of him. And it speaks to, I mean, you just see it throughout these guys' careers. They get the best out of the people that they have.
They really do. And like, even in this movie, this was pretty. I mean, this is really early in their career, like 3-4 years into their career. Mm-hmm. Every single person who appears on screen for any amount of time is engaging and interesting and like a whole developed character on their own. And that's the thing that I always love so much about Coen Brothers movies is like every single character has a personality. Getting cat attacked over there. Yeah. Like you look at like a movie like No Country for Old Men, just think of like the random characters that are in that, like the guy in the convenience store that Anton Chigurh interacts with, the hotel manager. It's the same thing with this, where it's like the guy who sells the balloons to William Forsythe is a whole developed character. The guy, even the dude who's just screaming in the truck. It feels like a real human being.
It really does. It just feels like
the guy he works with in the metal shop. He's only got like 3 lines. Who is that guy is the star of Blood Simple.
Oh, really? Okay.
I forget his name, but
that's so
great actor. He's worked with the Coens a lot. Let's quickly talk about the tattoo. The little tattoo that he has on his arm, and then that Lenny has later on that we see. Nicolas Cage actually got that tattoo ahead of filming.
It's an actual tattoo?
So I went back and forth on this because I've seen people say that it wasn't a real tattoo, and I've seen people say that it was a real tattoo. If you look at Nicolas Cage now, his Ghost Rider tattoo is over the top of that spot.
Really?
So he either covered it up after the film, maybe because of the sour taste that was left in his mouth about how he felt about not being able to do his own thing in that film. A cat just gripping on for dear life. No.
Yeah, he's the only cat I've had that aggressively snuggles. He will not be denied. He's the Harvey Weinstein of cats, I guess.
All right.
Oh my God.
So I'm not positive if he actually had that tattoo or not. I have read several people say that he actually got that tattoo, but it's not there anymore. And I think it was replaced with that Ghost Rider tattoo.
I could see him liking Woody Woodpecker enough to get a Woody Woodpecker tattoo.
Yeah.
And then just later cover it up with Ghost Rider.
It's a common misconception that it is Roadrunner. A lot of people think that it's Roadrunner and that
Woody Woodpecker. Or did I say cover up? Oh, sorry. Cover up with Ghost Rider. Never mind. My brain just crossed Ghost Rider and Roadrunner.
Ghost Runner.
Yeah.
Ghost Runner. Coming to you soon on Disney Plus from Marvel for Ghost Rider.
It's a common misconception that it's a Roadrunner tattoo and that Nick Cage was going for a Wile E. Coyote performance, which is actually what I used to think, but he was actually going for a Woody Woodpecker performance. That is the Woody Woodpecker logo for Thrush Exhaust, which is why it shows up in Gone in 60 Seconds, because that's an actual exhaust company, and he got the logo from that company in that tattoo. But it is, in fact, Woody Woodpecker. Though they didn't agree on everything, Cage and the Coens shared the same vision when it came to the tone of the film. The movie is basically a live-action cartoon, and Cage even saw H.I. as a cartoon character, specifically Woody Woodpecker. After reading the script, he said, "I saw the character as a kind of Woody Woodpecker come to life, an outlaw version of Woody Woodpecker." According to Ethan Coen, Nicolas Cage was crazy about his Woody Woodpecker haircut, and that it reacts to H.I.'s stress level throughout the film. The bigger the danger he's in, the bigger the wave in his hair gets. So it just gets crazier and crazier depending on what's going on. So like you know, in the more calm moments, he has it slicked back, and then when he's freaking out, he's
all poofed out. Yeah.
He does look a lot like Woody Woodpecker in a lot of the scenes. Okay, jumping over to the demon biker, Randall Tex Cobb. Surprisingly, was not familiar with riding motorcycles at all prior to filming. While shooting the scene where he rides up to inspect the hole where Evel and Gail had escaped from prison, he actually crashed into the hole in one of the takes. He apparently gave the Coens a lot of difficulty on set, probably more so than Nicolas Cage, with Joel Coen noting that he's less an actor than a force of nature. I don't know if I'd rush headlong into employing him for a future film. Which is funny. He does seem like he might be a little difficult to work with. But I think that's sort of what his character is in everything that I've ever seen him in. He's just kind of an ass.
Yeah.
Difficult person. The character of Leonard Smalls was created when the Coen brothers tried to envision an evil character not from their imagination, but one that High would have thought up, which comes into play later. I have some questions about the demon biker, and exactly if he's a real person, or if he's an imaginary person, or if he's just something that was born out of, like a Stephen King book where like the writer like writes something and then suddenly the character comes to life. This is like, I don't know. If you go by the idea of like this is basically just one big long cartoon, that kind of makes sense. Frances McDormand and Holly Hunter were actually roommates together at the Yale School of Drama in 1982, and the Coen brothers actually wrote Holly Hunter's character specifically for her. Which is funny, like if you go through their career. I mean, Frances McDormand is in almost every single Coen Brothers movie, which makes sense because she's married to, I think it's Joel Coen. She's really? Married to. And she's been married to him since, I think, 1984, something like that. So, I mean, one of those Hollywood couples that's actually survived through, I mean, these are two heavy hitters. Frances McDormand is Oscar winner, multiple nominations, and then the Coen brothers are the Coen brothers, so.
I never knew that. Crazy. That's crazy. They've been married that long. And I never
that explains why she's in like all their movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just figured
she's also a great actress.
Yeah. I just figured
she
she's
steals Fargo. I mean, from start to finish, she is the driving force of that movie.
Yeah.
This is funny. So, after this movie came out, a lot of people in Arizona were real upset. Which I guess I get, but like they were very upset about the portrayal of Arizona. And the mayor of Scottsdale, Herb Drinkwater, proclaimed that the film had no redeeming social value and that it certainly isn't the image Arizona wants to project. Like fun, enjoyable, not terrible.
Kooky.
Wait, so it's not a big desert?
It's not a big hole in the ground. Big 110-degree hole in the ground. According to Sam McMurray, one day he and Nicolas Cage went out to eat at a diner, and an excited female fan came over to their table. She couldn't decide if the man she was looking at was really Nicolas Cage. Once convinced it was him, she asked him for an autograph, and Cage wrote on a cocktail napkin, "Tomorrow you will die, Nick Cage." My absolute favorite story from all of the facts that I've found. If we ever get famous, I'm going to sign everything. "Tomorrow you will die, Patrick."
That's incredible.
This is, of course, a cult classic, but a few favorites of ours. Matthew McConaughey has said that this movie is the movie that he has watched the most times, and this is the favorite film of writer-director Edgar Wright, who is potentially the second one down the list of directors that I go and see everything that they do behind the Coen brothers. Final quick fact, this is amazing to me. Kevin Costner auditioned for the role of H.I. McDonough 3 times. Kevin Costner. Could you imagine Kevin Costner in that role? I mean, he really wanted it.
I can't.
I can kind of see it, yeah.
I don't think it would have been the same.
Yeah.
But I think he would have done something
he could have
similar.
done something interesting.
Yeah.
Especially directed by the Coens, because the Coens, they're just using him as it's basically a puppet for the Coen brothers. So I think they could have gotten something really good out of Kevin Costner.
That's
To
funny,
my knowledge,
yeah.
I don't think Kevin Costner's ever worked with the Coen brothers.
I was about to say I don't think he has, but I've heard him talk very highly of them, and has said that he's wanted to collaborate with them, but it's never lined up, which is nuts.
Sad. That's sad. I mean, they made a lot of films. You would think Kevin Costner would fit in somewhere, or at least a lot of times, like I forget who it is, but they had like 3 movies in a row where one actor had tried to be in their movies, and they just eventually wrote him a role for a movie that they were doing. I forget who that is. Write us at onecage@a-time at gmail.com. Or onecagepodcast@gmail.com. If you haven't figured out by now, I'm a huge fan of the Coen brothers. They've been consistently cranking out amazing movies for nearly 40 years. Even the worst Coen brothers movie is better than most movies out there. So why not start building your very own Coen brothers collection by heading over to lovedagainmedia.com, where you'll find more than a few of their best films. And of course, don't forget to save an extra 15% off their already low prices by entering the coupon code ONECAGE at checkout.
It's time for the main event. Here comes the breakdown. Act 1, the setup.
We start with our hero, H.I. McDonough, or Hi for short, having his mugshot taken by the lovely Edwina, or Ed. She's taken aback when he calls her a lovely little desert flower, even though she's screaming orders at him to turn to his right for his mugshot.
I love when he slaps his ass on the way out. A lovely little desert flower.
Hi is escorted to a cell as he explains in a voiceover that there's a camaraderie in prison that you only find in combat, while a fat, greasy, dirty, bald guy mopping the floor growls at him.
There's a lot of, for some reason, shirts with holes in them, specifically like thermals and wife beaters. Why you would ever wear a thermal in Arizona is beyond me.
It gets cold at night.
Yeah.
It does. In the winter, it gets pretty cold, but
I thought in the normal, like, just
certain
night in the
parts.
deserts.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
trying to remember.
We don't know when this takes place.
That's
Maybe it's in
true.
winter.
That's true.
We see him in a counseling session in the prison where a large black man says he feels trapped in a man's body because he...
Sometimes I get the menstrual cramps real hard.
They hired that guy specifically for that voice. There's no way.
Yeah. Next, we see H.I. at his parole hearing where they ask if he's learned anything in prison. He says, "Yes, sir, you bet." And then they say, "You wouldn't lie to us, would you?" To which he says, "No, ma'am, hope to say." Which is enough in the great state of Arizona to let a poor innocent white man out of prison with an, "Okay then." Hi robs a gas station 10 seconds later, which leads him back to Ed, who's obviously a wreck. She tells Hi through tears that her fiance left her for a student cosmetologist. So Hi tells her to tell him he's a damn fool for leaving Ed before being drug out of the room by another officer. I had to leave fiance in there because it was in the subtitles as fiance.
Yeah. She says it that way too. Like,
Yeah.
my fiance left me for a cosmetologist. Yeah, the toxicologist.
Cosmetologist.
Cosmetologist. Color outer space.
You, toxologist.
Nice. I didn't get it until you said that. We again see the filthy, growling, bald guy, then the counseling session, then Hi in his cell where his bunkmate rambles on about how
When there was no meat, we ate fowl. And there was no fowl, we ate crawdad. And when there was no crawdad to be found, we ate sand.
You ate what?
We ate sand.
You ate sand?
That's right.
a little bit less than, a little more entertaining than Bubba Gump rattling off shrimp recipes.
For some reason, of all the scenes in Raising Arizona over the years, that has always been my favorite for some reason.
Really?
When there was no meat to be found. You ate sand? We ate sand. See, that's what I mean about the Coen brothers, just like, it's just this innocuous character who doesn't need to be interesting is fascinating. Every character that makes any kind of like appearance in a Coen Brothers film is super interesting.
Especially when a character like High can be the straight man for the scene.
Yeah. Woody Woodpecker is the straight man in this scene.
The parole board again lets High out with an okay then, after calling him a repeat offender, and of course he robs another convenience store where he gets busted since he locked the keys in the car. Ed again takes his mugshot, and the corrections officers make sure to point out the Woody Woodpecker tattoo he has on his arm. Then Ed does his fingerprints, and High puts a quarter vending machine ring on her finger after asking if she has a new bow. A love story for the ages. It's like a little charm bracelet looking thing. But don't worry, he paid for it. As he tells her.
25 cents.
We then see the old familiar sights of prison again. Growling fat guy, the sand-eating bunkmate who describes how crawdad sounds like popping popcorn if you forgot to put water in the pan when you cook it. But High is sad since he finally feels the sting of incarceration now that Ed's waiting for him on the outside. Besides, though, he's only serving 8 to 14 months for what is at least his third armed robbery, as he points out.
I love that when he like tilts his head and then the flash happens again. Like he sees her on the bunk on top of him, taking his picture. Like that's the only like real visual he has of her at that point.
He pleads his case to the parole board once again, and again they let him out with an okay then. High proposes to Ed, and they're married with High side of the ceremony sporting Hawaiian shirts, and Ed's all dressed in police uniforms. They move into a trailer in the middle of the desert where High takes a job punching holes in sheet metal while a guy rambles on about some mother scratcher named Bill Parker, not Bill Robbins.
And me and Bill is patrolling down 9 Mile.
Bill Roberts?
No, not that mother scratcher, Bill Parker.
His job doesn't quite seem to scratch the itch that robbing convenience stores does, but when he gets home to Ed every night, so it's all worth it.
One of my dad's favorite jokes was that
He's got his sandwich in one hand and the fucking head in the other.
Quick fact, H.I.'s work uniform logo shows he works for Hudsucker Industries, which became the setting for a later Coen movie, The Hudsucker Proxy, from 1994.
yeah, 7-year pre-called back. Which is actually one of my least favorite Coen Brothers movies, which is kind of strange. Like that was a fairly decent sized hit when it came out, but I never really loved that one. That one and Intolerable Cruelty were like my 2 least favorite Coen Brothers movies.
I haven't heard of the Hudsucker Proxy, so
it's good. It's even the shittiest Coen Brothers movie is better than almost any other movie out there. So, comparatively, it's a great movie. And Tim Robbins is the star, and he's amazing in it.
Ed says they should have a baby because there's too much love and beauty in the world for just the 2 of them, and every day they keep a child out of the world is a day that kid might later regret having missed. Which I don't think that's how that works, but okay then. It's still a nice sentiment. I like that.
Yeah.
Poetic.
Okay then.
Sadly, however, Edwina finds out that she's barren, even though she looks as fertile as the Tennessee Valley. They try an adoption agency, but High's checkered past makes that impossible. He stares crazily into the mirror while lamenting that the salad days were gone, since not being able to have a kid made Ed quit her job and basically quit at life. And I looked at the salad days because I didn't know what the hell that meant. It's apparently a Shakespearean term that means like the youthful days, or days of your youth, the fruitful days of youth for some reason.
The good days.
The good old days. Then one day, the couple sees a news report about Nathan Arizona, the owner of Unpainted Arizona, the largest chain of unpainted furniture and bathroom fixture outlets throughout the Southwest. Seems he and his wife Florence have been taking fertility pills, and Florence just gave birth to quintuplets. Ed and High felt it unfair that some should have so much while others have so little, and they decide to steal one of the babies for their own. As you do. End of prologue. Credits roll 11 minutes into the first act.
Yeah.
It's almost halfway through the first act. Just setting up the movie.
Not as far in as Mandy, but took 11 minutes to get to.
Over at the Arizona household, they hear the baby slamming around upstairs like they're having a baby rave, but the Arizonas, being the attentive new parents they are, just sit in their living room, which is framed like it's in a Wes Anderson movie, and stare at a ceiling while the 5 unattended infants clomp around on the floor above them. just sitting in their chairs.
You can definitely see the influence that the Coen brothers had on Wes Anderson specifically, especially early on in their films. They were very like kind of color paletted, and they really spent a lot of time on set design and character wardrobe and all that kind of stuff, which is like Wes Anderson's whole life now, which is actually one of the things that I don't love about Wes Anderson's career trajectory is that he's just leaned so heavily into that at this point that it's like there's not even, it's like it's more that than a movie at this point.
That's why people go see it. It's just like you're watching a diorama play out with a bunch of famous people from other movies.
Exactly.
It's just cameos.
That's what turns me off from his films now.
Yeah,
it's not my cup of tea.
But that shot specifically, the way that the two are just sitting in their chairs, it's just a static frame. Looks like a stage play. Like their living room is just one shot. Really reminded me of a Wes Anderson setup.
Got some real high ceilings in that room too, which I think was intentional. They wanted to, have them have a whole lot of like, a whole lot of headroom to look up while the babies are clomping around upstairs.
It's just, they leave like 5-8-month-olds in a crib by themselves and they slave them.
Why not? They'll take care of themselves.
Yeah. Upstairs, Hai has successfully climbed through the bedroom window using a ladder. He tries to keep the babies quiet by rocking them and placing them randomly around the room for some reason. Chaos ensues as this human cartoon character tries to wrangle 5 babies. Meanwhile, the Arizonas continue to stare at the ceiling. Quick fact, 15 babies played the Arizona quintuplets in the film. One of the babies was fired during production when he learned how to walk. The mother went so far as to put her baby's shoes on backwards in order to prevent him from walking. If you're going to exploit your kid for a child role, might as well go all
child
the way.
abuse.
Yeah.
Why not?
Maybe she didn't know how to foot bind. Otherwise, she probably would have tried that.
She just hobbled it.
Hobble that baby.
Some misery.
You're going to earn that $250.
And since the movie has suddenly become Baby's Day Out, Hai chases a baby down the hall, saving it from falling down the stairs. I'd make a dead baby joke here, but those are tasteless and problematic, so we'll leave those in the dumpster where they belong. Jokes, not the babies. Although now that I think about it, how many dead babies can you fit? Never mind.
Oh my God.
Mrs. Arizona finally attends to the baby rave to find her 5 children sitting up straight and quietly in the crib, which is impossible, but whatever. It's not going to be 5 kids.
It's kind of amazing that they
sitting.
were able to get those kids to all sit
Just
in a
for
line
that shot,
straight up, staring at the camera. That must have taken a long time.
I was just trying to imagine the scene with
5 kittens together.
putting the kid down and then having the kid crawl down the hall and have another kid do other stuff in the background. Must have been a nightmare trying to get that stuff set up.
Yeah. Makes for good comedy, though.
Yeah. Hai has left the house and reports to a disappointed Ed that he didn't get a baby because they started crying and they were all over him. And it's kind of horrifying. Which is exactly how Patrick feels about babies.
100%.
It was kind of horrifying. Ed tells him not to dare come back again without a baby, so I guess she's fully embraced H.I.'s criminal lifestyle. Hai returns after Florence puts the kids back to bed with the best one of the babies, along with the instruction manual, which turns out to be Dr. Spock's baby in childcare. It's like everywhere in the 80s.
It just keeps coming up.
Yeah. Well, it's like everyone read that book in the 80s, apparently. That was like the thing.
I love it. It's like, I got the instruction manual.
Ed hilariously breaks down 5 seconds after looking into the baby's eyes.
I love him so much.
I know you do, honey.
I love him so much.
I know you do.
Back at home, Hai tidies up the place, hides a Playboy for a second before pulling it out, looking at it, and then hiding it again. He pops on a record and shows young Nathan Jr. around the spacious confines of their single-wide starter home that has the most 80s aesthetic a place could possibly have. Wood panel, everything, and weird, I don't know if it was Formica floors, but some weird pattern on the floors, this green diamond-looking thing, and yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's funny is as I was watching it back this time, I really started to notice a lot of weird parallels between it and No Country for Old Men. Like that trailer feels very similar to the trailer, the Llewellyn's trailer. And then there's a lot of like little parallels with like driving down the desert highway and like I don't know. It just it had a lot of things that reminded me of each other this time around. Because I think because I'd watched more of No Country for Old Men the last few years.
I wonder if it was like that was part of why they were picked to adapt it, or they wanted to adapt it. I don't know how that movie came about. If it was something they wanted to do, or if a studio approached them to adapt it or something. But it's a good fit too.
I wonder why they didn't do The Road.
Maybe they. I don't know.
Didn't want to do a soul crushing.
Yeah, I still haven't seen that one. I haven't read that book either because I've heard it's just super depressing.
So
it would hit different for you now, Nigel. It is a good book. It is dark, and the movie is a good movie, but it's dark too. But that's mainly because it's visually very dark and it's hard to see shit at times. But I thought it was actually a pretty good adaptation of the book. What's his name?
Cormac McCarthy.
No, the actor, Lord of the Rings guy.
Viggo Mortensen.
Yes, he's perfect in that role. You just know he already smells bad, so it just comes through perfectly.
It's an incredible film, but it is heartbreaking and really depressing. And honestly, that's what I think humanity's heading towards if things don't change, is The Road. That's the most realistic apocalypse movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, it really is. It's good. I would definitely recommend reading the book and then crying for like two to 10 hours.
Yeah, I read through
just crying.
I read through No Country for Old Men in like 2 days. It was so good.
Jesus.
It's fast too. It's not a long book. It just reads. The way he writes is just really fast. It's like you're watching a movie in your head. Like his stuff seems really easy to adapt into movies because of the way he writes.
Yeah, his writing is like you said. It just plays out as a movie in your head as you read.
All right, enough diatribing.
Back to the funny.
Although this movie came out in 1987, I was born in 1987, and I lived in a trailer for the first 2 years of my life. So my house was probably exactly like their house. From what I remember, the aesthetic was very similar. So
I had a lot of family members who lived in trailers, and I lived in a trailer when I was little. Identical. I mean, I don't know if they were just carbon copying them like on an assembly line.
There's not very many designs.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
The bar top with like the pole on the end of it, the faux wood paneling everywhere, the layout exactly the same of like probably at least a dozen different trailers that I've been to, that exact same layout of kitchen, living room, bathroom, bedroom, like exactly the same. My mom lived in an identical trailer to this one.
I think ours was like a mirror image of theirs, but it was the same layout. They set Nathan Jr. on a couch everyone's grandparents owned in the 80s, and they stare at the baby lovingly before High exuberantly says,
What? Are you kidding? We got us a family here.
And they take a nice little picture straight out of the awkward family photos. We're ready to pop here, honey.
I love that picture so much.
Yeah. Captures parenthood.
Yeah. And the 80s. It's just...
We cut to High's buddies Gail and Evel, who we met in the opening during the counseling sessions, escaping from the prison screaming from a muddy hole like a couple of Golgothans. For the uninitiated, that was the shit demon from Kevin Smith's Dogma, FYI. They come out of the ground like... So, I never saw this movie before. I did catch part of it on Comedy Central years and years ago, and it was this scene where it came back from a commercial break, and I didn't know what the fuck I was seeing. Just screaming and climbing up out of the mud.
It's a good spot to catch it.
Twisted birth scene, you know?
Yeah, it reminded me of that scene from Ace Ventura when nature calls. He's coming out of the random ass.
Yeah. They later parody this, and I think American Dad has a parody of it. The boys escape from like a summer camp or something, and they do the same thing.
It is shit that they're crawling out of. They said that the
sewage line.
Yeah.
Something about a birth metaphor. I don't know. This movie's about parenthood and whatever. I don't quite know what they're going for.
I thought maybe they were going for something biblical in that, but I don't.
I've
researched it a little bit, and I couldn't find anything.
There's
specific.
another, there's lots of myths where like humans were made out of the clay of the earth stuff, and they come out covered in mud to it. To me, it seemed like a birth thing. Like they climb up out screaming, and then he pulls the other guy out by his leg. You know,
he's like holding William Forsythe up by his leg. Like I know John Goodman's strong, but he's not that strong.
No. Yeah. They escape the sewage-soaked soil like Andy Dufresne escaping the shit tube from Shawshank Redemption, then Brill cream up like a couple of 50s greasers in a gas station bathroom. They steal a station wagon and head straight for High's place, where Ed is not exactly over the moon to see a couple of escaped convicts covered in shit who could potentially draw the police straight to their trailer. But High's pretty stoked about it. It's his buddies.
It's his buddies, yeah.
John Goodman
I don't get the sense that he has a lot of friends, so...
Yeah.
Gail and Evan.
Yeah, you make them in prison and prisons for life.
A great night just got better. Brought home the baby, now my buddies are here.
John Goodman and John Les Goodman get a tad bit suspicious about... They look like brothers. It's great casting. Just looks like a younger version of John Goodman.
Oh, man.
They get a tad bit suspicious about the baby, and they question who wears the pants in their relationship when Ed tells them to leave. So High tells them they can stay a couple of days to assert his authority. That night, High has a dream about his future role as the Ghost Rider. I mean, some burly demon biker from hell who blows up bunnies and with grenades, shoots lizards with a shotgun, and sets fire to flowers as he rides past them. Like the Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
Or one of the demon bikers from Mandy. I don't know. It's one of it's a prophetic dream either way.
Yeah. Touche.
High fears he himself unleashed this monster by stealing the baby, and knows this vision of pure evil will soon be heading straight for him. During his dream, he sees Florence, Arizona screaming when she finds Nathan Jr. is missing, and the camera flies in from outside straight to her screaming mouth. Quick fact, the shot in which the camera moves in on Florence, Arizona, discovering that Nathan Jr. is gone, is a direct homage to The Evil Dead, a film which Joel Coen was an assistant director on. I didn't know that, yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Good fact.
It's crazy to think, like, the powerhouse of, like, Hollywood superstars who came out of that weird, shitty movie, like, shot in a little cabin in the middle of the woods.
It's so influential for such a low budget, it was definitely like a point of view shot of the camera going up over a car and smashing up through a window. It's just like Evil Dead.
Yeah.
High wakes up to Ed singing Nathan Jr. a lullaby called Down in the Willow Garden. A quick fact, the lullaby that Ed sings to Nathan Jr. is a folk song about a man sentenced to death after brutally murdering his fiancée. Fun song for all the boys and girls. Don't murder your fiancé, kids.
Street. I never knew the history of that song until this show. And
I'd never heard the song, but I was like, this is a super dark song to sing for a kid, but it's Coen comedy.
Oh, he makes the comment in the moment of, like, it's hard for little creatures, after having the dream about the biker killing all the little creatures, and she's singing that song to the baby, and then he says it's hard for little creatures. So it's like he's getting the meaning behind the song that we, for years I never even paid attention to really what it was implying, like what that song was about. It's pretty fucked up to sing to a baby.
The world is too cruel for children.
Yeah. Kind of true.
Act 2. It's about time we had some conflict, wouldn't you say?
Nathan, Arizona wakes up to the press at his front door. He tells them that he thinks the kidnappers took Nathan Jr., but he can't be sure because, well, quintuplets. Then a reporter asks if the baby was abducted by a UFO. Oh, Arizona, you crazy state. Oh, man.
Yeah, it does legitimately feel like something a news reporter might ask in Arizona.
I believe it. Thankfully, Nathan
I'm not
is able...
shitting on Arizona, but I have never had a good experience in Arizona.
Really?
I've been to Arizona like 3 times and been pulled over twice. And and I broke down in the middle of the Arizona desert, and a cop came up and frisked me. Didn't offer any help, didn't offer to drive me into town or anything. He frisked me, ran my license, and then took off. Like, dude, I could have used some help. But,
Have
whatever. Gotta go profile some people.
Hey, at least you got touched.
I'm only in the middle of the fucking desert.
It's like there's miles from anything, and I'm like,
I'm gonna die out here.
Anyways, so I have a grudge against Arizona. So
I've only had good times there, but I think I've only been once. So
it's the Phoenix airport.
that is where I flew into. It's beautiful,
Gorgeous, air conditioned, amazing.
It was awesome. Step outside, hot as fuck.
Like a stucco carport in the middle of summer. The whole state.
Thankfully, Nathan is able to use this tragedy to let everyone know it's still business as usual at Unpainted Arizona. I mean, he does have 4 more kids, so can't be that upset. And those toilets and bathroom furniture aren't going to sell themselves.
He also doesn't really know which kid got kidnapped. He thinks it's Nathan Jr.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many of them. How are you supposed to know?
I will say that the babies all look very different from each other.
Yeah.
For quintuplets, they sure don't look alike.
Yeah, true. The cops take Nathan's fingerprints to distinguish them from the I knew I was going to do this. Okay. The predator showed up. The cops take Nathan's fingerprints to distinguish them from the perpetrator, but they'll somehow come up with nothing despite the fact that H.I. wasn't wearing gloves and his fingerprints are definitely on file since he has a rap sheet a mile long.
And we saw them fingerprinting him multiple times.
Yep.
Yes. Oh, Arizona.
Bit of a plot hole there, but that's, they do say that, like Leonard later on says, like a cop couldn't find a hole in the ground or whatever, a hole in his ass or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe it was intentional and they were just making a remark that they just didn't give a shit.
Yeah. I mean, there's like 30 of these stupid cops walking around his house, like eating his food and
dirtying everything up, which is not what you want to do.
Precursor to the John Benet Ramsey case.
Oh my God.
Cops ruining the crime scene. Like traipsed in and out and messed up the chain of evidence and fucked everything up.
Yeah.
Small town Boulder cops. I took a forensic science class in high school and we talked about how they completely fucked that up.
Oh yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
Parents did it. Then he says the baby was wearing jammies with Yodas on them. Nigel? Wait.
Yeah.
Wait.
I do have a Baby Yoda outfit for the baby.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you had a Baby Yoda outfit. I do have a Baby Yoda outfit. Wear my diaper and everything in it.
Also, yeah, the baby wasn't wearing jammies. He was just wearing a diaper.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I know.
Dad doesn't know shit.
They're all diapers, yeah. He's a great father, I'm guessing Nathan leaves most of the parenting up to Florence and hasn't spent a second with the kids since he saw them through the window in the NICU.
And Florence leaves all the parenting up to the crib that she just leaves them in. Sits with Nathan.
I mean, it is a better parent than Nathan.
Yeah,
Crib is.
True.
It's weird. It's like he seems like he's not even really that upset at the beginning, and he's not like the loving father that he shows himself to be in the very last scene of the movie in these early scenes. But
yeah,
it's interesting.
Kind of weird.
I kind of took it as he's in shock.
Yeah,
it just kind of like just doesn't know what to do. This is the first time he's ever felt powerless, probably.
Do you think after this, I guess this is a couple of question, but like, do you think afterwards he ends up loving that baby more than the other 4? Just because?
Nah, he probably hates it because it let itself get kidnapped. That's weak. You'll be the janitor at the store. I can't trust.
He hates him because he came back. Like he doesn't even want all 5 kids anyway.
Yeah, he was partly relieved once he realized, I only got 4 kids now. Nathan freaks out because the 50 idiot cops don't seem to have a clue where to start looking for the missing baby, and rightfully asks why they're all sitting around making a mess in the one house in the state where he knows the baby isn't at. Over at the prison, the cops inspect the hole Gail and Evel came out of, and suddenly, High's nightmare biker shows up. Turns out he's a bounty hunter who tracks the pair to the gas station bathroom they stopped in to grease their hair by smelling the burro cream they bought at the gas station. Not really sure where that cream came from. Did they bring it with them?
I don't know.
Smuggled it out.
I guess they could have had it with them at the prison, and they brought it with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I was like. So how did he track them from the prison based
Right.
on the
To the gas
smell of the
station.
Brill cream that they bought or stole from somewhere else.
Well, maybe they left tracks to the gas station, and then while he was there, he saw the Brillo cream, and then he smelled that, and then he got their scent from that.
That makes sense.
Or he swallowed
Then-
the scent of the sewage, maybe because it smelled like shit.
Oh, touche. You know what? That's probably actually pretty accurate.
Yeah. See, that's why I like doing this show.
Quick fact, viewers who pay attention will notice the abbreviations POE and OPE on the door of the gas station restroom where Gale and Evil wash up after their prison break, which is a reference to the recall codes from Dr. Strangelove. Did not know that until Patrick.
I wondered what that was about.
Homage. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it had to be intentional. But I was
Kubrick.
like,
Yeah, you down with OPE?
yeah, you know me. Back at Ed and High's, Gale and Evil stare creepily at Ed and the baby while eating cornflakes like pigs eating slop. Gale asks why Ed isn't breastfeeding the kid while milk dribbles down his chin, just to make her even more uncomfortable. And she tells him to mind their own business. High wakes up and Ed makes him tell the boys to leave for a few hours since they're having some decent friends over.
I love that he's like, some damn good cereal. It's just cornflakes.
It's just cornflakes.
They're complimenting Ed's cereal.
Was it like, damn good cereal flakes, Miss Madonna?
Yeah.
High tries to skip out on the get together and knock back a few cold ones with the wanted fugitives he's harboring, but is overruled by a scout from Ed, which I think we've all been on the receiving end of one of those scouts before.
100%.
100%. H.I. puts on his best pair of slip-ons and a polo to greet their distinguished guests, Glenn and Dot, who are somehow trashier than Gale and Evil. They all have they have 5 hell-spawned children who make a great first impression by scratching and beating the shit out of High's car.
Get away from Mr. McDonough's car!
Then smashing up the living room and scribbling the word fart on the wall with crayons. Glenn tells High a few expertly crafted Pollock jokes, which are even more off-color than dead baby jokes. Which reminds me, guys, how many dead babies does it take? Wait, no, never mind. I think we all agreed not to do those jokes anymore.
I love when he's like, how many pull-outs does it take to screw in a light bulb? 3.
Wait.
Wait.
I missed the punchline.
Why does it take 3 pull-outs to screw in a light bulb? Because they're so damn stupid. I love it because the pull-out joke thing was such a popular thing back in the 80s, and it's funny to have the stupidest character in the whole movie like think that he's super smart by doing these horrible jokes.
Glenn is a real piece of shit, but a super great dad. He lets one of his kids spray High's crotch with a squirt gun. He then has a little fun with his boy, Bufford. Who's scribbling.
Buford.
Is it Buford? Oh, sorry. He then has a little fun with his boy, Buford. Bufford. I figured it'd be something stupid. He then has
Buford is pretty stupid.
Buford's a beautiful name. He then has a little fun with his boy Buford, who's scribbling fart on the wall by chucking some M&Ms at his head. The kind of father we wish we all had.
Like,
I love
think
Nick
fast,
Cage's
like,
reaction
wings
to
of it.
that.
Throwing High's candy at his kid. I'm assuming
It's
that's
the most
their candy.
genuine moment from High. The entire movie is his reaction to him chucking M&Ms at that kid's head. Think fast.
Big face.
He's a smart one. He already knows his ABCs. Fart.
F-A-R-T. He asks High how he got the kid so fast. He explains how he and Dot tried to adopt because he's shooting blanks after kid number 5, and the adoption agency would only give them a couple of Korean kids or a black kid born with his heart on the outside of his body. High says Ed had a friend at the adoption agency, which seems to make Bonehead Glenn suspicious, even though he doesn't seem to be smart enough to button his own pants. Later, Dot tells Ed about the shots Junior will need while making mustard sandwiches.
So gross.
It's like a scene out of
Fucking white
Vacation.
people. Yeah, these felt like even worse Cousin Eddie and his wife.
Yeah. Those
Yeah, it
Jello
really did.
bowls all over the place.
Oh, God.
Mustard sandwiches.
High stares at one of Glenn and Dot's kids who's smashing some Jello while sporting an eye patch, which she throws in High's face. The Jell-O, that is, not Diet Patch.
That's the moment where he's like kind of starting to feel a little trapped by family life. Oh my God, this is what I have to look forward to.
Yeah, it's all crashing down. Hai and Glenn walk through the desert, and it's obvious that H.I. is in full panic mode at the horrible mistake he's made bringing home this kid, since he's clearly never going to be the superstar dad Glenn is. Glenn tells him another Polish joke, while Hai asks him if he's ever felt trapped by his family life. He says he feels a heavy weight pressing down on him, to which Glenn says he knows that feeling. Well, because he's told Dot she needs to lose some weight. I love how they just paint this guy into I love how they just paint this guy into being like this absolute piece of shit. There's no redeeming qualities to Glenn at all.
What's funny is like Ed is a police officer, and like she regards these people as like the decent people. Yeah. not like the police officers that she worked with for years. It's these morons.
That's because they got 5 kids.
These are for role models.
Because she wanted kids. So.
Glenn then tells Hai he knows the perfect way to bring the excitement back to his life by swinging with him and Dot.
What am I talking about? I'm talking about sex, boy. What the hell are you talking about? I'm talking about L'Amour. I'm talking to me and Dot are swingers, as in to swing. I'm talking about wife swapping. I'm talking about what they call nowadays open marriage. I'm talking about...
I would have suggested maybe a session with the crocodile, but that's just me. So Hai punches him in the face, thus answering the prayers of everyone who's ever come in contact with this dude. He runs straight into a cactus running from Hai. I don't know about you guys, but I was sure hoping he'd die right there in the desert.
Save the world from a few more Pollock jokes.
Later, on the way to get diapers, Ed says that they finally met some decent people, and Hai just has to go and break his nose. I'm guessing Ed has had a hard life if she considers Dot, Glenn, and their horde of crotch goblins decent people. Apparently, Glenn is Hai's foreman, so he'll probably get fired now. To rectify this, Hai does the most logical thing and decides to rob a convenience store, since old habits die hard.
You would think that the guy who was talking about Bill Parker was his foreman, but no, it's Glenn.
That was just his coworker.
Yeah. No, not that mother scratcher. I use that all the time still. Like, no, not that mother scratcher. I love this. See, that's another, like, he's in 2 scenes and they're both just like amazing. That guy's so like there for a couple seconds, and that's the brilliance of the Coen Brothers, man.
Yeah, they have these great one-off characters. He heads into the store, pops a pair of panties on his head, grabs some Huggies, and pulls a gun on the cashier, who promptly pushes a button to alert the police. Ed hears the sirens, then spots Hai robbing the store. She calls him a son of a bitch through the window, so Hai tells the kid to hurry up since he's in Dutch with his wife. She peels out, and Hai is left between a cop car and the store clerk sporting a gun that would put Dirty Harry's to shame. Actually, now that I think about it, the gun kind of reminds me of Diesel's gun from Dog Eat Dog. But I bet this kid never blasted some cokehead in an abandoned Coast Guard base after falling through the floor onto a bunch of dead bodies. I said bodies, okay? Not babies.
Yeah, the kid's too busy reading jugs.
Maybe if Diesel would have done that, Mad Dog would still be alive.
That gun is gigantic. I don't know if that's like a 44 Magnum. That thing is huge.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Just like the founding fathers intended. Right? Don't you question it.
That kid is
like God-given
another character. Another character who's like I don't even think he spoke, but he still had like a whole identity of his own.
Yeah, I don't think he spoke either. I think he just pulled a gun on him, and then
he's super memorable somehow.
Yeah,
I don't know what the secret is, but
he loves porno magazines and big guns. All right.
Yeah, true American hero.
Man.
Yeah,
just a simple man. Hai runs down the street after Ed, with the Huggy still sporting the panties on his head, while the cops and clerk shoot at him from down the road. He drops the Huggies since he's being shot at and takes a quick left turn through a yard with a Rottweiler/Doberman. We'll let Nigel be the judge, which eventually leads to a chase almost shot for shot from the sandlot after the dog breaks free and joins in on the chase.
I thought you were going to say it's like the backyard chase and Gone in 60 Seconds. Like, not everything's color-coded in this one.
Made me think of that.
I felt like I've hammered enough on Gone in 60 Seconds, so I should probably just ease off of it to stop torturing you guys. Ed has a change of heart and heads back to save Hi, who gets run over by a screaming farmer in a truck. He then jumps in with the driver, who expertly delivers the line,
"Son, you got a panty on your head."
Before they speed down the road directly into the clerk with the hand cannon. They swerve to avoid him, then run straight towards the cop car. They flip around and speed away from the cops before the driver slams on the brakes, throwing Hi through the window into a yard. Always wear your seatbelt, kids.
This whole sequence is just amazing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is like a cartoon.
Yeah.
In this whole bit.
Yeah, it really does. It does remind me of, like, you know, your stereotypical cartoon chase. Just
hijinks
and craziness.
It's an old writing trick when you hit the midpoint of your story to just have somebody kick a door down and then come in shooting, you know, so to speak. Just spice the action up, you know. Perfect example is this scene, like right in the midpoint of the movie, just having this like wacky hijinks just come out of nowhere.
Yeah. Hi runs into a nearby house with a cop and an entire neighborhood of dogs in tow. Then to a grocery store where he grabs some more Huggies. The cop shoots at him in a busy grocery store, nearly killing several innocent bystanders screaming for their lives. Nice to see nothing has changed since the 80s, boys.
I love it that like when they enter the grocery store, the music turns to the overhead the elevator music. It's like
the subtitles even say Muzak. Like in little closed captions have a little music symbol and say Muzak playing.
Attention to detail, man. It's so good.
Yeah, I love that too. It's just a nice touch that these guys have in all their films. Hi escapes the cop only to cross paths with the stampede of dogs. Then has to change direction again when a guy from the meat department pops up with a double-barrel shotgun, which I guess he just keeps in his locker at work.
Yeah, man, it's the only way you stop a bad guy with a gun. Just get a good guy with a gun.
Well, you got a lot of crazies running through your grocery store, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, it is Arizona. Probably everybody in the store had a gun.
Well, maybe High's tried to rob this store before.
Touche. Yeah. And this butcher's like, not this time.
They said this was actually a functioning Safeway that they filmed this whole thing in.
It looks so much like a Safeway.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me. Hi is then cut off by a cop, so he chucks the Huggies at him. Busts out the back door and runs smack dab into Ed. She punches him in the face and asks why he's committed armed robbery with a baby in the car. Hi says, "It ain't armed robbery if the gun ain't loaded," which, life pro tip, is 100% not true, by the way. Hi directs her to the Huggies he left on the road as they argue and tells her to accept him for who he is, because Nathan Jr. does. This makes sense.
Yeah, you can rob a store with a squirt gun if they think that it's, you know, a credible threat. You're getting armed robbery for it.
Yeah. Yep. Back home, Gail and Evel are drunk as hell watching some kind of weird-ass musical on the tube when Ed bursts in and tells them they need to leave first thing in the morning. Because they're a bad influence on Hi.
There's like 20 beer cans around them.
It's amazing. It just cuts from this wacky scene to them just like staring dumbfounded at the TV with beer cans everywhere. Just like,
It's audience insert.
So good.
Gail theorizes that the cause of Ed and Hi's marital strife is probably financial, to which Hi says he lost his job after breaking Glenn's nose, even though technically Glenn broke his own nose by running face first into a cigarro.
Saguaro?
Yeah,
is it saguaro? Cigar or saguaro?
Sicario.
Sicario.
Serpico.
Serpico.
Cigarillo.
Saguaro. To which Hi says he lost his job after breaking Glenn's nose, even though technically Glenn broke his own nose by running face first into saguaro.
Ziggurat.
Saguaro.
Cigarello.
Credits.
Sacramento.
Glenn and Evel decide to invite HI on a little score they've been cooking up. They plan to rob a bank since the counselor at the jail told them they need to think bigger. Your tax dollars at work. They also say he needs to stop robbing convenience stores and pull a big job like the people they saw on the news who stole Nathan Jr. He contemplates doing the robbery since he's a jobless criminal who is no good for Ed or Nathan Jr. We cut between the evil demon biker on the road and High while he writes Ed a goodbye letter. He writes that he'll never be the man she wants him to be, nor the husband she deserves. And he'll probably bring her and Nathan Jr., the baby they kidnapped together like yesterday, trouble.
This is all her idea, you know?
I know. Yeah.
He was just the instrument to enact her plan.
Right.
Because he's an idiot and he just went along with it.
Because he loves her.
I don't even think High ever wanted the baby. She was the one who wanted the baby the entire time.
Yeah. That's why he has that breakdown.
Yeah. That's how it works in life.
Yeah. Oh, God, it's getting personal.
Nigel, you want to tell us something?
Did you steal those Huggies? We see the demon biker arrive outside of High and Ed's trailer, but rather than bust down the door and bring Gail and Evel to justice, he heads to unpainted Arizona, where he tells Nathan Arizona he knows where his baby is. You know, he's got to do some shopping before he goes and brings them to justice.
How did he know that the baby was in it? Because I don't, did he go up to the trailer?
Baby crying.
He hears the baby crying, and he knows that means that it's the kidnapped baby, I guess, even though he's tracking
the breakout.
Evel and what's his name?
Gail.
The two good ones.
Gail and
Evel.
He's like 300 yards away from the trailer and heard the baby scream.
Well, he's obviously a supernatural force of nature, so whatever.
Yeah.
Just go
Also,
with it.
have you ever heard a baby cry? You can hear that thing through fucking 10 feet of concrete.
Walls
Yeah,
in those
but how
trailers
can you
aren't thick.
distinguish each baby
And
cry from the
and
other?
how does he know that's the kidnapped baby when he's tracking
He just knows.
two other guys?
This is his profession.
also like
Would you
that-
question it if Dog was there? If Dog the bounty hunter showed up and told you that he knew?
Well, Dog's got Jesus on his side, so that makes sense. I also like that High's note that he writes is like multiple pages because he writes like a kindergartner, like giant words.
It's like a paragraph on 6 pages. He says he'll bring him back for $50,000 and will give the people who took him a good ass whooping for no extra charge. He tells him his name is Leonard Smalls, but his friends call him Lenny. Quick fact, Leonard Smalls is named after Lenny Small, one of the two main characters of the book/play of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck.
I don't know why specifically they chose that, but but I guess it was
nothing like
just
that
a
character.
fun little homage to Mice and Men.
I mean, he's a big guy, I guess. That's
he's a big
where,
guy.
and he kills rabbits. So
Actually, you know what? That's actually a good point. Okay. It's a
That's the best explanation I've ever heard.
That's pretty good.
it's a deep cut.
But I guess I know for me when I was a kid, Of Mice and Men was kind of like one of the first things that made me want to potentially write something.
I thought you were going to say
maybe
because of Mice and Men.
Read that
You
a lot as a kid.
wanted to kill rabbits.
the rabbits, George.
No, you read Mice and Men a lot when you were a kid.
I mean, when I was like preteen was like when I first read it, and I loved that book when I first read it, and I still do. So maybe it was the Coens, kind of maybe it was their entrance into writing as well as. So I don't know.
I can see it.
Yeah, and obviously
They just wanted to pay homage to
They could do a good.
John Steinbeck.
They could do a good Steinbeck adaptation. I would think.
Oh yeah,
Some Steinbeck
Sure.
books.
I feel like most of the time though that they like to put their own spin on things, and I feel like Steinbeck would be kind of hard to Frankenstein into a Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah, that's true.
But they did adapt Cormac McCarthy and make an incredible film. So
and that didn't really seem like they put too much of their own stamp on it.
No,
they did, and they didn't.
I haven't read that book. Yeah, I haven't read that book, but just knowing.
No, the movie is very similar. It's like almost. It's weird. when I watched it. It was weird. It was
be.
like I'd already seen the movie when I watched it for the first time because I read the book, and it's just such a great, I would say shot for shot adaptation, but it's not because it's a book, but it's page for shot adaptation, I guess.
That's crazy. Nathan says he thinks Lenny is an evil man and is most likely the one who stole Nathan Jr. after Lenny catches a fly in midair. Side note, I'd pay Lenny $50,000 to snatch all the flies out of the damn office I'm in. It's wintertime and these bastards are still alive. I don't understand how. There's a ton of them. They just won't die.
Well, they come indoors during the winter, so they probably get worse as the season turns.
It's gotten so bad.
I start Mr. Miyagi and I'm out of
Gotta go
with some chopsticks.
Go leave a review on Yelp if there's too many flies
in the office. He goes to call the cops, but Leonard Batmans himself out of the room, leaving only a nasty slobbered on cigar in his wake.
Then he just... Then you hear the motorcycle revving like he's already out and gone. I don't know.
I guess if you look at him as like a supernatural being of some sort.
Yeah.
He was the blueprint for Anton Chigurh in No Country for Old Men. I did get that vibe as I was watching. Like, he's the same kind of thing. Like, Anton Chigurh is like a force of nature.
He also kind of reminds me of Randall Flagg from The Stand, from Stephen King's The Stand.
Yeah.
Just like this supernatural entity that always seems to show up no matter what's going on there. No real explanation for his powers.
Act 3, The Resolution.
Hi wakes up face first on his goodbye letter, his multiple page goodbye letter. I love how this just the scribble, man. It's just so perfect for his character. To Gail and Evel sporting shotguns for the big heist. They tell him Ed has left for town and the baby's asleep in the crib. Which I was like, why? So Ed just left these two assholes to watch the baby?
Yeah. Right.
Anyway, so they say that they're fine to just take off and go do the job that might end up with them getting killed. I guess his bank isn't very far away because they don't drive super far to get to it. So I guess they could have gone and done the job while the
small
baby's
town,
sleeping.
Everything's pretty close together, maybe. Nobody is a good parent in this movie, so.
No. Glenn knocks on the door and Hy tells the boys to stay out of sight. Glenn has a neck brace on and a bandage on his nose from the saguaro cactus that he ran into. He tells Hy that he's fired, which we kind of assumed that he was going to fire Hy, and that he's in a whole shitload of trouble since he knows they were the ones who stole Nathan Jr. before he hacks a loogie on the ground.
Now you're at my mercy. I'm your worst nightmare.
Just after he finishes talking. Those little details, man, that's what really makes this movie so great. He says he wanted to turn Hy in for the reward, but Dot wants the baby, so she has something to cuddle. Like, even the like rational person in that relationship seems like a real piece of garbage. These are real decent people.
Yeah.
Glenn takes off and Hy heads inside, where Gail and Evel have overheard the whole conversation, and since you can only find camaraderie like prison life in combat, they decide to steal the baby to get the reward.
It's like Glenn's car has a sticker that says, "Warning, I drive naked," on it. I don't know if you saw that. It's a sticker on his window.
I think it also has a Mondale for president sticker on it.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Gail and Hy fight while Evel hides in the bathroom with the baby, but their battle is hilariously plagued by the pocket-sized confines of the trailer. H.I. scrapes his hands on the popcorn ceiling. Gale busts through a window when he cocks his fist. He swings Hy around, knocking down the bar top and throws him through the paper-thin walls. It's just nonstop incredible, that fight.
This shot also felt very Evil Dead as well.
Yeah.
Like, this scene felt very Sam Raimi, low-budget chaos.
It also feels like a cartoon, especially like when Hy's legs are just like swinging around. See that shot Evel and Gale tie H.I. to a chair and he falls over after hilariously struggling. But Gale comes back for the instruction manual. The old doctor's box. High screams as they take off with the baby, which echoes throughout the Southland. Ed passes them on the road as they leave and is excited that they're gone, but that excitement is quickly ruined when she gets home. Nicolas Cage delivers the best monologue of the film to a vacant Ed who stares off into space, unable to accept what an absolute idiot her husband is. He reassures Ed that everything will be all right while loading every gun in the house and saying that he's a changed man, that she was right and he was wrong, before cocking a shotgun and saying,
So let's go, honey. Let's go get Nathan Jr.
Gale and Evel have some bonding time with Nathan Jr. on the road, where Gale says he loves to drive. I also use that line all the time, like when I'm driving on the freeway or something.
I love to drive.
And Evel learns that babies need more than just one diaper for a road trip. He has a similar reaction to looking in Nathan Jr.'s eyes as Ed did, saying,
Gale? What now, little brother? Smiled at me.
Which causes him to instantly fall in love with the little tyke. It's funny because they basically take on the role of Ed and Hi right after they take the baby. They're like, now we're the surrogate parents.
Yeah, it's one of the things I liked about this. Is the baby just disarms everybody with his charms, and everybody falls in love with him.
Yeah. Evel asks an old timer at a store how to put diapers on, then wants to know if some balloons he found blow up into funny shapes. The old timer says,
Well, no, unless round is funny.
I love that line too. It's like,
Me too.
just those little, side characters adding so much to the film. Usually they're just innocuous, these little moments where they're interacting with some side character, but like in a Coen Brothers movie, every single person creates some sort of magic. Then he robs this poor old guy and tells him to lay down on the floor and count to 825, and that he's gonna come back in 5 minutes and check to make sure he ain't cheating.
Evel ever ask him how much he lost in a coin toss?
It's another like reminiscent moment.
Yep.
Gale and Evel take off with Nathan Jr. in his car seat on the top of the car. It takes them a second, but they realize Junior isn't in the car, so he must have fallen off the roof. And they're kind of making a getaway, so they must have like sped off super fast.
Yeah.
Poor baby. Just a load of brilliant people in this movie. They scream in terror at what they've done, turn around and head back for the baby, screaming the whole way while John Goodman punches the dash and flips out like Chris Farley. I got to assume that Chris Farley probably saw this performance and started I think he embraced John Goodman's vibe from this movie. Mm-hmm. Not to say that Chris Farley didn't create his own thing, but I think he saw
it, a high energy, cartoonish.
Well, the high energy was from the Coke. But
Too soon.
Too soon, bro. Oh,
John Goodman was the foundation for his character.
Or Belushi. Belushi was.
Yeah, probably more Belushi. Mix of both of them.
Yeah. Which you should never mix two substances together. Just
never cross the streams. What did Dr. Clay?
Never cross the line.
Yeah. Never cross the line.
A major faux pas.
That's still one of my favorite lines. But only when Nigel says it. So good. I love that character.
Junior's just fine, sitting in his car seat in the middle of the road, contemplating baby stuff. Just kind of looked around. He's just fine. Somehow
Arizona sun.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like it's not
from falling off the
too
roof.
hot yet. It's early morning still. So it should be like 70 degrees.
Yeah. Right on the asphalt.
Yeah, right. He's sitting right on the road.
The baby would be cooked and we can't make dead baby jokes. So.
Yeah. Scratch that.
The old timer gets to 769 Mississippis before calling Evel's bullshit. He stands up and then spots the car coming back. So he goes back to counting again. Those little details. bullshit. And then he stands up and immediately sees the car coming back. Gail and Neville almost run over Nathan Jr., this poor kid. But they're relieved to find him safe and sound and promise each other to never give him up again. So they've already fallen in love with this baby after 15 minutes of being around it.
Yeah.
Ed dons her police uniform as they head towards the bank Gail and Neville said that they plan to rob, while High tries to think of something to say to console his devastated wife. She cuts him off almost as soon as he starts talking and seems to have come to her senses over this whole kidnapping thing. She says she doesn't care about herself anymore. She just wants to get Nathan Jr. back safe. And if they do get him back safe, she doesn't want to go on living with him. She says she's not too proud of herself and that they don't deserve Nathan Jr. any more than the fugitives do. We cut to the biker walking into High and Ed's destroyed trailer where he sees fart written on the wall and seems perplexed. Bends down and then looks up at the fart on the wall. A really great callback. Then he finds the newspaper clipping about the bank that Gail and Neville plan to rob. So that's how he tracks them there. Over at said bank, Gail and Neville run in with guns and Nathan Jr., where they tell everyone to freeze and get down on the ground. A farmer asks,
"You want I should freeze or get down on the ground?" Mean to say, if I freeze, I can't rightly drop. And if I drop, I'm going to be in motion. You see?
Shut up!
Okay, then.
Eventually, he has them get down on the ground, and then Gail freaks out because the tellers are all gone. Because they're on the ground. Starting to see why these guys are always in prison.
They did the Furpo brothers a run for their money.
One of the tellers puts the old classic blue dye pack in with the money, while these idiots are arguing about code names or something, and they head out to make their getaway. But they again leave the damn kid on the roof. This was the first time I ever remember seeing the blue dye pack thing in a movie. And I was like 5 or 6 the first time I ever saw this movie. So I wonder if this was one of the first movies to show that, or if other movies had done it in the past. But I don't remember ever seeing it before this, and I've seen it a million times since. Just as they're about to head back to once again retrieve the kid, the blue dye pack explodes in their faces, causing them to swerve all over the road and almost directly into High and Edwina. There sure isn't a lot of traffic in this stretch of the desert. It's just them. There's nobody else on the road.
Yeah, well, I kind of figured they lived on the outskirts of Phoenix.
I think it's supposed to be Tempe.
Tempe. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely a small town out there. Lately, parts of Arizona have developed, but for the longest time, it was pretty scarce outside of the major cities like Phoenix and.
Yep, nothing but trailers and graboids out there.
Yeah. And Sicarios.
I bet there's some stretches in Nevada that were like this, where it's like you don't see a car for miles and miles and miles. Mm-hmm. So makes sense. Ed and High pull guns on them and take the baby book back. They head back to the bank to find poor Nathan Jr. in the middle of the frickin' road again.
He seems fine with it.
Yeah, he's just chilling.
He likes it.
Yeah. During this entire scene, we see like a cop car kind of on its way to the scene, which I think was coming for the robbery.
Yeah.
But the cop car gets to the bank, but blows up off screen. And then the biker from hell himself shows up, which I had a question about. Like,
why did he blow up the cop car?
Did he kill a cop? Like,
yeah, I think it's the implication.
Yeah,
like I know he's a bounty hunter and shit. But like, he just killed a cop to get to a baby for $50,000. Yeah. I guess that's one of my big questions. Is like, did the cop die, or did he just like stop the car? I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I just know there was the explosion. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. He had to stop the cop from coming to the scene, I guess, so that he could impart justice. Ed and High see the biker on the horizon, and High asks if she sees it too, which she does, which kind of answers the question that I had of like, is the biker just a figment of his imagination throughout the whole thing? But Ed sees it too in this scene. Sees the biker as well. So I guess it's more like he might have created the biker out of his own imagination. Yeah. Somehow magically. I don't know.
That's what he says. Yeah.
The biker grabs Nathan Jr. out of the road, puts him on the front of the bike, and then blasts the front window out of Ed and High's car. He heads back to dole out some evil biker justice on them by throwing a grenade in the car, all while Nathan smiles and laughs like Baby Yoda on the front of a speeder. That's for you, Nigel.
Thank you.
Kind of has that same feeling of like the laughing and smiling the whole time.
Baby Yoda enjoys the love, the danger, enjoys the reckless life. Like Nathan loves it.
Which he does say later on, you know, I wonder if we broadened his horizons by this. So maybe. High and Ed escape the car, but the biker heads back to finish the job after the car blows up. He tries to run over High, but High grabs his leg and then is pulled cowboy style across the hot Arizona pavement for a bit. Which is like, he would have had a real bad day after that if this wasn't a cartoon character.
They dragged me out of the pavement, see? All I wanted was to get the baby back. Yeah, that's right. Get the baby back.
Call back to the best movie in the whole season so far. Ed boldly heads towards the biker saying, "Give me that baby!" And just before he can chuck a couple of knives into her head, High shoots him in the hand, causing it to catch fire.
Yeah, like he's the Ghost Rider.
Did he shoot through his hand and inside the biker is fire?
Yeah, he's
or
a demon.
did it just go across his hand and then start his
I think it's
glove on
supposed to
fire?
be he has fire for blood or something. Like he's a demon. So.
Yeah. So I guess it, goes back to he's a supernatural being of some sort.
Yeah.
Ed takes off with the baby, but the biker gives chase, chasing her straight into the bank where the farmers inside tell her to get down on the ground, little lady. I love that. It didn't need to be there, but it just adds so much to that.
Yeah, it does.
That little line just thrown on top. She leads him down a wooden walkway and High hits him in the head with a 2x4. The biker is slightly irritated now, so he throws a knife at High, which sticks in the board, and then High coughs like Peter Lowe after ingesting some cokehead blood for some reason.
Yeah, what the hell?
Does that same just kind of thing that he does in Vampire's Kiss. Which, I guess it's because he's in pain from being drugged on the ground.
Yeah, I didn't know why.
I don't know.
It came out of nowhere.
It's just
trying to distract him or something.
The biker Mortal Kombat scorpions the board away from High and then belts him in the face a few times, causing H.I. to spit a tooth in his face. High escapes under a truck, but is drug out by Leonard, who gives him a good old-fashioned bear hug. That scene of him being drug out. I don't know why in this whole final scene he has one eye closed through the whole thing, but it's such a hilarious face that he has through the whole final battle here. High fumbles around with the biker's jacket, which reveals that Leonard has the same Woody Woodpecker tattoo as High on his chest. Which I guess also goes back to him inventing this character.
Yeah.
This is High's evil side, and maybe he's getting rid of his evil side somehow here, and he's going to go on the straight and narrow after this. I don't know. I'm sure
that sounds
there's
plausible.
There's some symbolism here, but I don't. That was one of the critiques of this film was you're not really sure what's real and what's not real, and and it kind of blurs the line between surreal and a real story, and critics weren't exactly sure how to feel about it.
That's one of my critiques of it as well.
He lets him go and then belts High a few more times before H.I. reveals a ring in his hand from one of the grenades on Leonard's jacket. They make eye contact and H.I. says, "I'm sorry," before Leonard blows up into a million filthy, smelly pieces. Which, did he actually blow up? Because he's fire inside. Maybe he's it's like T-1000. He's going to reassemble again after this.
Maybe it's like D&D rules where if you kill a demon, they don't die. They just go back to the hell dimension or whatever they came from, and then they come back.
Yeah, so if High re-embraces his dark side,
he could come
potentially back. The demon biker will come back again. Next, we see High and Ed putting Nathan Jr. back where he belongs, in his crib at the Arizonas. Nathan Sr. catches them in the act and shoos them away from the crib, where he is relieved to find his son has been returned. He asks Ed and High if they're in with Smalls. You know, the guy who rides a Harley, dresses like a rock star, and smells like shit. I added that last part. I'm just assuming. He's got, like, shit caked on his face.
Mm-hmm. He gets dirtier and dirtier, too.
Describing Meatloaf.
High says that's who they saved him from, and then asks about the reward. So he's totally turned a corner. He's on the straight and narrow now. Nathan Sr. then leaves a loaded gun in the baby crib with Nathan Jr., who accidentally shoots himself.
Who accidentally shoots himself.
Oh, wait, no.
He's got 5 of them now. You could lose one.
Yeah. He just crawls over and just shoots himself with the gun. Which reminds me, what's the difference between a dead baby and... Oh, wait, no. Not doing that anymore. Ed says she doesn't want the reward. She just wants to look at Nathan Jr. one more time. Nathan Sr. then figures out that these are the two who stole the baby in the first place. He decides not to call the cops since there was no harm done to the baby. He just wants to know why they did it. And Ed says it's because they can't have one of their own. Nathan says they just need to keep trying and hope medical science catches up with them. And even if it never does, they've still got each other, which I'm sure is exactly what she wanted to hear. Just keep trying. With this person you can't stand anymore. High says they're planning to split up because Ed thinks they're both selfish and unrealistic, so they aren't too good for each other. He says they must have their good points since they didn't sell the baby on the black market or whatever. And he tells them to go out the way they came in and says they should sleep on it before splitting up. That night, High has a dream where he sees the future. Gail and Evel return to prison. Nathan Jr. opens a Christmas present of a football from a kindly couple who prefer to remain unknown. Glenn tells a Polish motorcycle cop a Polak joke, which doesn't go over very well. Then he sees Nathan Jr. as a football star, and finally about he and Ed being visited by their children and their grandchildren in a land not too far away from Arizona, maybe Utah.
He's thinking big.
We have a Coppola Questions before we move on.
We have a special guest on this edition of Coppola Questions.
Nathan Jr.
Seems fitting. Nathan Jr.
Yes, little Amber Jr.
This is little Evelyn, Nigel's baby, joining us. Since it's our season finale, we have the specialist of special guests.
Why not
on
break
the show.
child labor laws?
She's like, what the?
What is happening?
What is this?
So most of my questions were answered throughout the course of the show, but I guess we'll just throw them in here. Is the demon biker real, or just a figment of H.I.'s imagination, or something that he created out of thin air?
Yeah.
What exactly is the story with this biker?
Because he interacts with other characters without Nathan there. We see him interacting with. Or not Nathan, without H.I. there. And you see him interacting with Nathan, and then Nathan knows about him and talks about him when they meet Nathan at the end. So, I was like, I guess he summoned him? Like, his bad thoughts actually did. But then, why does he have a backstory of, like, he was a kid and he was sold into whatever the hell he was sold into for $30,000 or whatever, and became a bounty hunter.
Like Nathan or H.I. has some sort of like psychic abilities because he does see the future later on, and
that was my other question: was he actually prophetic? Like, is he like Paul Muad'Dib, where he has like dreams about the future that are going to come true?
Yeah.
He's got psychic powers.
But why would the biker also have the Woody Woodpecker tattoo?
Are they supposed to be from the same orphanage or something? Or
maybe
like
both born into a life of crime?
Yeah, and I said that was like my critique of the movie. Like, why? I know it's funny. Like, it's weird having that in there. It's kind of surreal, but like, why do that when you could just as easily have the biker character not be a weird supernatural demon, and it would still fit just the same. So I'm not quite sure why they decided to go that angle with it.
Yeah, what exactly is the intent behind all of that?
Yeah, so it just seemed it was a weird thing to put in the movie when everything else is pretty like buttoned up, I guess. Like everything else just kind of fits in its own weird logic. Like, yeah, there's weird stuff like them crawling straight out of a mud hole, getting out of prison instead of suffocating. But whatever, it works in the movie.
Yeah, it's funny.
But I guess if they were going
just
for
a visual gag,
cartoon logic, then sure. But even that's a little weird even for a cartoon. Like, you summoned a demon from your dreams that is a real thing and exists in this world.
Yeah. And
somehow has a backstory.
Yeah. How did the biker find the bathroom that Gale and Neville were in? I guess it makes sense because they had to crawl through sewage to get out of that mud hole. So they're covered in shit. This guy's like a bloodhound and can smell really well, obviously. But then when he comes into the bathroom, he looks at the hair, Brill cream or whatever, and then
knows that's from them somehow.
Yeah, and then he knows that's them. Maybe that's him following the scent to the next place. It's like, oh, I followed the smell of shit to get here.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to follow the smell of their hair cream.
This is kind of what I figured they were implying. But then it's like, why does he even need to follow a scent? He seems like he's just a supernatural demon.
He's just magic.
Yeah.
He's kind of magic throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, how does he get out of that room so fast?
Right, he just teleports out. And then he even makes a point in the closed caption to be like bicycle engine or motorcycle engine revving. Like, he's already out and on the motorcycle and driving off in about 2 seconds.
Yeah. So he's got some, I mean, I guess we could explain that all the way of like he's got some sort of supernatural powers of some sort.
I just think I don't think the movie needed that angle of it, other than I guess to just be funny and weird to make you go, what the fuck? Like, I guess maybe that's what they were going for.
It adds a level of mystery to the film that actually, when I was a kid, that was part of the reason I was drawn to the movie. It was like, I think I've mentioned in the past that like if I don't know how to, if I can't explain something, somehow it makes the movie better, as long as it's like something that seems like there was an intent to it.
Yeah.
If it's just like dog eat dog style, where it's like I can't explain this because the director hates the audience.
Or some student thought it'd be cool to throw it in, so they threw it in.
But when it seemed like there was an intent behind it and I can't explain it, it just kind of deepens the mystique of the film and draws me back into it later on.
Yeah. It is almost like a mirror of, or an inverse of Big Lebowski, with the Sam Elliott character being like this wise, I don't know if he's God or an angel or something that shows up, knows more than he should know, and is just there to bookend the story.
Yeah. So the Coens do kind of use this sort of like narrator supernatural thing quite a few times throughout their films. So I don't know. Maybe it's just their quirk.
It's a little stamp.
My only other question is, did the biker kill that cop? And why did he kill the cop? Like, he just became a murderer of a police officer.
Maybe the cop has
to enact justice to get this baby back.
Yeah, maybe the cop would have messed the story up, so he needed to, or would have tried to stop him, or threw a wrench in his plans, so he just needed to blow him up. Because they already say he has no disregard, he has no regard for life, big or small. So he's just trying to accomplish his mission, which is get the baby. So cop was in the way, so he blew him up with a grenade launcher or something.
I guess so. Other questions?
Those are my big ones. Was the guy a real thing, or was he some demon hellspawn that was created by High, and is High actually psychic? Like, does he actually see the future at the end, or is that just him going to sleep and wishing? Which I guess he saw the biker guy show up, and then that turned out to be real. So I suppose the implication is that he does have a way of manifesting things with his dreams. So I guess we can all be happy, and that the story has a happy ending.
Yeah, it leaves you hopeful that things have turned out well for Ed and High, and they've stayed together, and I think that was the idea. Was, you know, it also kind of leaves you with questions as to whether or not this actually is their future. Will they eventually have children of their own? Yeah,
because you never actually see them. You see the back of them. So maybe maybe it's not Ed and High. It's High and somebody else, or it's two completely different people.
Or maybe it's Ed and somebody else.
Right.
And High is no longer part of this.
I do like the interpretation that that Smalls was like his evil side that came to life, and then High blows him up in the end, and that's, you know, banishes him and becomes a good person.
Yeah. I never really thought of it that way until we started talking about it.
Because he mentions that a couple of times, that he's like he's not a good person, or, you know, Ed critiques him for not being a great person and stuff, and maybe he's trying to turn his life around. So maybe he's, you know, this is his catharsis, is dealing with this character and becoming a good person from that point forward, leaving the con life behind.
I do like that idea, and I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it kind of makes the movie even better. Thinking of it that way.
It's time to keep track. Here are the final stats.
Jumping into the trackers, Nigel. I'm guessing you had a light load on this one?
Yeah, this one was actually hard because I kept being like, am I missing stuff? Like, there should be more, but there isn't. It's just 4 dams and 2 goddams, and that's it. That's the only time he curses in the movie.
Wow.
So 6 total. I think it was almost like they even mention it when he says something like, he says damn right when they first grab Nathan Jr., and then Ed's like, don't curse in front of the baby. Yeah. He doesn't for the rest of the movie, really. So
he don't know a cuss from Shinola.
And even then, it wasn't really a cuss. It was just saying damn or goddamn or whatever. But so it was I think this is, aside from, there have been a couple movies Pig, he only swore twice. Mandy was only 4 times, and then
Willy's Wonderland, 0.
I'm sorry, Mandy was 0. Gone in 60 Seconds was only 4 times.
Bringing Out the Dead was like 2?
Bringing Out the Dead, 2 fucks. Yeah, and then obviously Willy Wonderland was 0 because he doesn't talk. So this one kind of ranks on the lower end of things.
Did you notice much cursing at all throughout this? Because I feel like there wasn't a lot.
There really wasn't.
A couple other characters swear a few times, but there really isn't a lot. I think it's maybe going for that cartoon vibe. You know, there's not a lot of swearing. There's not really. There's violence, but it's like cartoon violence. It's not really over the top. I mean, I guess it is over the top, but it's not like graphic.
Yeah, and it's PG-13, so it makes sense.
I probably would have liked this movie as a kid if I'd watched it. You know?
Yeah, like I said, I think a lot of my love for the movie is nostalgia, and I watched it when I was a little kid. I think it was, I feel like it was a rental when I was like 6. I mean, like right after it first came out, and I remember loving it. And it's weird for me to love an adult movie as a 6-year-old.
With this movie only having 6 curses total, that brings us to a grand total of 257 curses across these 15 movies for the first season. So by far the most used curse word was fuck, with 123 of those 257. The next thing that comes, nothing else comes close to it. So 123 fucks. The next most frequently used curse is shit, with 32. So he definitely weighs a lot heavier on the F-bomb side of things when he's cursing. So.
Good reason that the F word was the first of his history of cursing episodes that he did for Netflix. And shit was second. So
that's so funny.
Yeah, and then after
Makes
that,
sense.
it's God, which is kind of lame. And then after that, it's goddamn. So, yeah, they just kind of get mild. But yeah, it's like fuck, shit, and then every other variation of other, lesser used curses.
Yeah. So on the nudity side of things, we had none. So for our first season grand total, we had 20 breasts. Most all of those came from Dog Eat Dog and the porn laptop that Willem Dafoe had.
I forgot about that.
Then we had
from
two.
Poland, though.
We had 2 female asses, 4 male asses, 1 vagina, and 1 penis. Not a single instance of nudity on Nick Cage's part. So he has never been nude in the 15 movies that we've done. It'll be interesting to see if he's nude at any point through any of the movies. I don't feel like he's that kind of guy who wants to be nude in his films.
I don't know. It seems weird. It seems like he would do that if the movie called for it.
I think so.
But he just never has. So maybe the movies haven't either called for it or he just strictly does not want to do that for one reason or another.
On the state and country tracker, the entire season, we didn't leave the country once, which I know will change in our first episode of the second season. But for this season, at least, we ended up with 11 states, which is pretty sizable. It's 1/5 of the country. This one was set in Arizona, obviously. So that brings us up to California. We went to 4 times, New York 5 times, Washington State, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Illinois, Ohio, Nevada, Oregon, Pennsylvania, and Arizona. So 11 total states.
Decent coverage on the West.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we hit all 50. I remember, I feel like we were talking about Colorado at one point and looking up to see if he had been in Colorado at any point, and I don't remember seeing him having one there. So at least it'll be interesting to see which states he doesn't end up in.
It'll be interesting.
There's got to be at least a few, right?
Yeah. Be interesting to see if
over
he
the
makes
course
it to
of
Utah.
100 films. Yeah, he doesn't hopefully eventually make it to Utah and have his happy life. On the budget and gross side of things, this one was $5.5 million budget and made $29.2. So for the season, we are in the positive, mostly thanks to Gone in 60 Seconds, which made a huge profit. We did have a couple in there where I wasn't like they didn't release the budget, or they were like all over the map. Like Color Out of Space was 6 to 12 million, so it was kind of hard to write, what exactly was the budget. So I put 6. So we may be closer to even than we show, but I think I think we're still in the positive. Ratings. This was a PG-13 film, so we split it across the board. 15 films. We have 5 R's, 5 PG-13s, and 5 unrated films.
Damn, that's funny.
Yeah, it's interesting how that worked out. Total coincidence. Kill tracker.
All right, so for this film, we have 1 kill. Death tracker, he survived this one. So he's 6 for 15, which we started out, and I think almost every movie we began with, he died.
I think it was the first 5, right?
The first streak,
the first 4, right?
First 4.
Because I think Bringing Out the Dead was the first one he survived.
With Command Grand Isle,
so that's
Fall of
5.
Vampires,
That's 5.
has Color Out of Space. Yeah.
Oh,
and then-
Color Out of Space is 5. Duh.
Bring On
Yeah,
the
sorry.
Dead.
So the first 5, yeah. So since then, he's really slowed down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
was starting to worry there. I was like, is he going to die? Like,
Dog Eat
I
Dog.
know. Yeah. And then it wasn't until Dog Eat Dog that he died again. And since then,
And then
he's
after
survived
that, he's
every film. Resurrection, we're 0 on this. So for the season, out of the 15 films, he only was brought back to life twice.
So that was Color Out of Space and Dog Eat Dog.
Yeah. Those are the 2 that we agreed were the resurrections. So pretty tame. I have a feeling the Death Tracker will probably climb as we go into our future seasons.
Yeah, for sure.
Where does this masterpiece fall? Let's rank this film on the Cageometer.
So I guess the big ultimate question here is, we'll start with Vince. where does Raising Arizona rate on your Cageometer?
All right, for the movie, a 9. I got to give it a 9. I hadn't seen this film in a long time, and I was very happy to see that it held up. I felt like it was told very well. It was paced really well. The performances that they got out of everybody, even like we talked about, the one-off characters, it just really built this beautiful world that worked really well together. It was funny as all hell. One of my favorite Coen Brothers movies, for sure. And I'm really happy to see that it holds up over time. For Cage, give him a 9 as well. I thought he did such a great job with this character. They really got the best out of him. And like we talked about before, once again, you don't see this performance out of him ever again. This is a very unique performance that they drew out of him. And I think it worked really well with the story that they were telling and the character. And, by the end of the film, you really do feel like he's a good guy who just makes really bad decisions, and you can't help but root for him, right? He really wants to try to do right, but he is somebody that just can't get out of his own way, can't get out of his path, and always goes back to doing these bad things. And I just love the way that he played it. He never got super crazy. He never mailed it in. He just really he really clicked with that character, and it brought that character to life and helped the movie flow. And it's one of the best performances that we've seen during season 1. This and Pig are 2 of my favorite performances from him out of all the films that we've seen. Oh, and Mandy. Those are my top 3 right there. I know you guys thought Trapped in Paradise would be my number 1, but I just gotta boot it down. Gotta boot it down a little bit, but yeah, I mean, man, I forgot how good this film is, and it was so good. It was so nice to see it hold up, and it's a shame they never worked together again, because I think they could do something, and maybe, who knows, maybe they will, because I think they get the best out of him, and I would love to see them take a more mature Nick Cage and help him craft a character inside of their world again. Yeah,
I would love to see a serious Coen Brothers film with Nick Cage in it.
Yeah.
I would love to see him work with the Coen Brothers in anything ever again. Maybe that's how they'll ride off into the sunset, and their final final film will be bring Nick Cage back. Yeah.
90-year-old Nick Cage doing a movie with 100-year-old Coen Brothers.
their final film. All right, Nigel, where does Raising Arizona rate on your Cageometer?
Yeah, so this was the first and only time I've seen this movie, but I gave it a 9 out of 10 as well. And some parts of it didn't quite click for me, and I was thinking initially of a lower score, like an 8 out of 10. It's still good, but not, some of the stuff was campy. Some of the things just didn't quite match up. Like I said, my main critique being the supernatural elements were there, but didn't seem like they needed to be. They were kind of confusing and muddled, but I think they also don't really make the movie worse by being there. I think if anything, they just make it better, especially I feel like on repeat viewings, like most of the Coen Brothers movies, this would just get better and better the more you watched it. Doesn't seem like it would get stale. Still seems like it would be entertaining. Like you said, the pacing, Vince said the pacing is good. It is. It never drags. It's only an hour and a half long, so it just goes right along. It doesn't feel like it's overstaying its welcome. It's it was entertaining. It was fun. I hadn't seen a Coen Brothers movie this early before, so I was kind of wondering if their style was there yet, because I think the earliest I've seen is Big Lebowski, which I guess wasn't that many years after this, but what was that, 93 or something?
No, I think it was like 99. Late 90s.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So that was
99 or 2000.
So it was about 10 years after this came out. So but it was there. Their style was there. You could see that they hadn't quite, got to the point where they got when they were doing things like No Country for Old Men stuff, which is one of the other ones I've seen, or Fargo. But it still has that charm and that feel to it, which is good. They got a great performance out of all the actors. Everybody, like you said, or like we've said, even random one-off characters that show up for 20 seconds of screen time are memorable. great movie. And then for the man himself, I also give him a 9 out of 10. So I put him on par with things that I've said, like, what are the other 9s I've given? I think Mandy and...
I think Mandy
Deadfall.
and...
I think I gave him a 9 for Deadfall as well.
I feel like you gave him an 8 for
maybe it was an 8.
Deadfall. And I think you gave him an 8 for Vampire's Kiss as well.
Could be, yeah. But I give him a 9 on this because for as early in his career as it was, it still doesn't feel like... it feels Nicolas Cage, but also not. He feels distinct from everything else we've seen him in. You can see that he had the talent to go on to be the actor that he is today, that we know him to be. He made a unique version of that character. I don't know how much of that was him and how much was Coen's. It seems like it was mostly Coen Brothers because they wouldn't let him do whatever he wanted to do with the character. But I think he may have still, obviously it would have been a different movie if they'd cast Kevin Costner to do it, he straddles that line of, being a leading man, but also being a cartoon character and, not being the toughest big shot in the movie, but also still being the protagonist and the hero, who wins in the end and overcomes himself and Smalls, which I guess maybe also was himself, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's entertaining. He's charming. He's funny. You get that sense of exactly what the character is. He's just, a good guy with a checkered past, but, it's just petty crimes. They're not like horrible things for it. So you can still root for him. And he does play that sense of innocence that the character has as well. He's just kind of a naive, lovable idiot. So, and I think I don't know if that's a particularly hard role to get down, but he does it in a way that seems really natural, and you just kind of buy into the character, and it helps the movie. So, yeah, I think this is one of the more memorable performances he has, but it's different from his other, memorable performances. So, it speaks to his quality as an actor even back then. Yep.
I'm shocked that you guys matched my rating, as I also gave him a 9. I thought Nigel might hate it based on some things that we've done in the past, just because it's a quirky film. But I love this movie so much, and it's like very near and dear to me. Like I said, it was the first Coen Brother movie that I ever saw, and I was a little kid when I saw it, and I loved it back then. And that speaks, I think, to the Coen Brothers in general. Is like, this is entertaining to children. This is entertaining to adults. This is entertaining to everybody. And I think that's one of their hallmarks, is that anybody can get something out of this film. Not all films that they do. A lot of them are a little more heavy, such as like a Fargo or No Country for Old Men, or I would say like Burn After Reading even has kind of these cartoon elements. It's a little more violent, but like a film like that, or Oh Brother Where Art Thou. I mean that one, that kids, adults, everybody can get into that film.
Yep, I watched that one as a kid. Liked it a lot.
It was one of my grandpa's like favorite films.
Really?
It's just funny. Like, children can like it, older people can like it. Anybody can get into it. I love this film to death, and I'll echo the same things that you guys said. Like, every single character in it is memorable, enjoyable. Even just like the smallest person, like the guy in the truck, screaming as they're driving down the road, like, boy, you got a panty on your head. It's masterful. And, and I think that's the Coen Brothers to a T, is like, they just make everything their own, and they make every person, really feel integral to the story that they're trying to tell. And a lot of films and a lot of directors will just kind of have a character who's just a throwaway, but like the Coen Brothers somehow make everybody memorable. As far as Cage, I also gave him a 9, because he just disappears. I mean, I've never seen this performance out of Nick Cage, a similar style of performance, and he's done 100 films, and I do wonder if it's because the Coens were really like honing in on the character that they wanted out of this. But Nick Cage also brought so much to it. Like, I don't feel like the Woody Woodpecker thing was the Coen Brothers idea. I think that was Nick Cage. And without it, this character isn't this character. So that is 100% Nicolas Cage bringing that to this. I can see, I bet you they did have a lot of battles back and forth, but, great directors really get the best out of him, and we've seen that throughout. If it's a director who's not, challenging him, then he's going to give a dog eat dog performance or, some of the other films that we've seen where he's not quite as engaged. And I honestly think that he likes that. I think he likes a director challenging him and pushing back on him and making him do something that he may not, agree with. And he speaks very highly of the Coen Brothers. He's been asked publicly about, his experience on the film and how he feels about the Coen Brothers, and he's never had a bad word to say about them. Which makes me sad that they haven't worked together again. And I think that's probably more to do with the Coen Brothers, who are kind of like, I don't really want to work with a guy who's just going to push back on everything that we say. They have their kind of staple character actors that they use a lot. They have John Goodman has been in a million Coen Brothers movies. Blanking on his name, but the guy who was No, not that Mother Scratcher. That guy's been in a lot of their films. The guy who played Milton in Office Space, and who has been in a million different things, but he's become a staple actor for the Coens. And then Frances McDormand, of course, for obvious reasons, she's there. But yeah, I feel like it's a masterful performance, an amazing movie, and just like you said, it holds up. And I went back and I watched all the Coen Brothers movies, everything that they had ever created from the very beginning of their career, and I rated them all. Kind of similar to how we're doing with this show. I sat down and I meticulously went through all of them, expecting Raising Arizona to fall somewhere in the middle because it had been a long time since I'd seen it, and it still ended up at the top of my list. Tied at the top of the list with No Country for Old Men, because I couldn't choose between the two. They're just so amazing, both of them. Yeah. So it's came out in 1987. It was their second movie, and it still holds up to this day. It's just brilliant. I love it.
Here it is, the moment you've all been waiting for. These are the cagiest moments of the film.
The pizzazz had gone out of our lives.
Just run along now.
Whoa.
All right, that's it for this first season of One Cage at a Time, which is crazy. We finished our allotment for 2021. The goal is to do 10 or 15 a year, as long as we're able to. But yeah, I still feel like if nobody ever listens or watches this show, it's 100% worth it because it's been a freaking blast doing this. And I'm so glad that you guys joined me on this crazy endeavor that we're doing here.
Yeah. Well, it's a great idea. So it's a good idea for a show. Really,
it's been so much fun. Yeah.
Even the shittiest of movies have been a blast to work on. So, Nicolas Cage has said that every time he raps on a film, he has a tradition where he gets himself a bottle of champagne and a bucket of KFC. Yeah. So we are celebrating our season finale the exact same way. I'm gonna hit my ceiling.
I'm scared.
Ooh, came off clean there.
Yeah, that was a good one. Ooh. Ooh.
I used to have some champagne flute, but I don't anymore.
Same.
I have some from Cannon Beach, Oregon, from when I proposed to my wife.
Oh, nice.
So I have a nice little bought at the random grocery store at Cannon Beach with some cheap champagne. But it means something to us.
All right, guys. Cheers.
Right. Cheers
to a successful first season.
Ooh, thank you guys so much for so much fun. I think I've shared this with you guys before. I haven't laughed as hard as I have doing these episodes in a long time. And after the shit show that 2020 was, it was very refreshing.
It's a good way to
get
stay
some comedy back in. Oh god, yeah.
I think I've mentioned it on the show, but one of the big impetuses for doing this show was I lost my dad, and this has been an amazing way to just kind of forget, do something to kind of keep my mind off of that, and just kind of bring that joy back into life. And it's been an absolute blast, and I can't thank you guys enough for being a part of this and doing this goofy, weird-ass experiment with me.
Well, it's been great. Thanks for doing all the heavy lifting. I know it's a passion project for you too, but you do shoulder a ton of it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I kind of, I knew what I was getting into. But, it's almost amazing because I sort of, even after we finish the episodes, I sort of have to go through the movies with a fine-tooth comb again. Mm-hmm. And I notice things as we go through the movies again, or after we've done the episode, and I have to go through the episode or the movie again. So we definitely are going to have to do those Back Into the Cage episodes. God. There's so much stuff that we got wrong, so many things that we screwed up on, so many things we forgot to mention, or just completely glossed over and didn't realize that we missed. So again, we're counting on people. onecagepodcast@gmail.com. Send us your whatever we screwed up, fan theories, little details that we might have missed, anything that you've heard, behind the scenes stuff. We love all of that junk. We're total nerds for Nicolas Cage, so send them in. Before we go, we thought we'd do something special since this is our season 1 finale, and we're going to present our 10 favorite Cage. Actually, you know what? 15. I'm going to do 15. Let's do 15. 5 for each of us. Our 15 favorite Cagiest moments of the first season. Hit it.
You're still looking amazing.
Well, you look like a Bible salesman.
You're healed. Nah, I'll get us a real good gig. I'll get us such a good gig. Take your tits off.
I'm a vampire! 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 What am I, a fucking retard, man? Am I a fucking retard, huh? I know what this is! You're trying to stop me out because of this crazy little nephew being around! Well, vive la fucking France, man! You fucking cocksucker! You cocksucker! You cocksucker!
Fanny lives in the well now. Drake, I'll have you one.
You call me a dildo, it is my business, Spritz.
You are a dildo, pork fuck, you porker.
An example. When was the last time you had your cock sucked?
Am I getting through to you, Alpha?
I know how your mind works. You know exactly what you're doing. And the whole time, you stand there with this who me expression on your face!
You filthy double-crossing little fucking filthy double-crossing filthy fucking goddamn fucking filthy little brat! What the?
How could somebody misfile something? What could be easier? It's all alphabetical. You just put it in the right file, according to alphabetical order. You know, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z! Huh? That's all you have to do!
Very good. You know your alphabet.
I never misspelled anything! Not once, not one time! I can't look at that!
Watch it now.
Now you're the fuck! Hi fucking ya!
I'm sure this is absolutely disgusting for everybody watching. So,
sorry, folks.
Put the chicken away for a second. As always, be sure to drop us an email at onecagepodcast@gmail.com to let us know if we missed anything throughout the entire season. As we will be back in 2022, and we're hoping to do that spin-off show, Back Into the Cage. It should be chock full of crazy shit. Or hit us up with suggestions to improve the show, any comments, compliments, or simply to gush about the legend that is Nicolas Cage. When we come back in 2022, we'll be kicking things off with our most requested movie, the beloved 2004 fan favorite, National Treasure.
So stop asking us when we're doing it.
So stop asking us. Every person I run into is like, when are you guys doing National Treasure? I get three questions every time. Why? Isn't Nicolas Cage broke and that's why he does so many shitty movies? And when are you doing National Treasure? When a historian and codebreaker finds a ship in the Arctic, it holds clues that lead him on a whirlwind adventure that eventually lead to him stealing the Declaration of Independence itself. Make sure to check it out wherever fine films are sold or on your streaming service of choice. Until then, we'll say goodbye the way we do each and every episode with our Nicolas Cage quote of the film.
But I ain't like that no more. I'm a changed man. You were right, I was wrong. We got a family here. I'm gonna start acting responsibly. So let's go, honey. Let's go get Nathan Jr.
Thanks for listening to One Cage at a Time. Visit us online at onecageatatime.com or follow us on the social media platform of your choice for more Nicolas Cage goodness. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you really like the show, become a member of our Patreon where you can download unedited and ad-free episodes, as well as listen to our follow-up show, Back into the Cage, where we re-examine each movie to discuss what we missed the first time around, answer listener questions, and wax poetic about the man, the myth, the legend that is Nicolas Cage.
Buford's a sly one. He already knows his ABCs. Watch this. Hit the deck, boy.